let's have a look at what we are looking at today. All right. Okay, just a little bit of a revision from our last lesson. In our last lesson, we looked at what happens when we see two signs next to each other. Okay, so when we see two signs next to each other, remember we're working with integers now. So integers are positive and they're negative numbers. And sometimes we see sums where we have two signs that are right next to each other. So they might be in brackets, and we'll have a look at some examples now. But sometimes we might see a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other. Remember that a negative sign, okay, is always the more powerful sign. And if we see a positive sign next to a negative sign, we're going to have a negative. So for example, right, if we have 4 plus, and we see a bracket, negative 2 equals, we said on Monday during our lesson, when we see a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other, we go and we draw a circle around them. All right, a positive and a negative sign. I said to you, what's more powerful between those two signs? It's the negative. So we're going to cross those signs out, and we're going to be left with a negative. So 4 minus 2 will give us 2. Okay, when I see a negative sign and a positive sign next to each other, so if I see something like that, I'm going to be left with, well, I'm seeing a negative and a positive sign next to each other. What's the more powerful sign? I'm going to be left with a negative. So again, for example, if I've got 4 minus positive 3, let's say, equals, well, I go and I take my pencil, I draw my circle around the signs because they're right next to each other. I'm seeing a negative sign and a positive sign next to each other, which means what's going to happen, negative sign and a positive sign next to each other, I'm going to cross them out, and I'm going to be left with a negative. So 4 minus 3 is going to give me 1. In my next one, I've got a positive sign and a positive sign next to each other. Well, when I've got a positive sign and a positive sign next to each other, I'm always going to be left with a positive. So for example, if I had 4 plus positive 7, we never really see that in maths because we'd never really say 4 plus positive 7. That doesn't really make sense, okay? But if we had to draw a little circle around the two positive signs, because I have a positive sign and a positive sign next to each other, what's going to happen? The positive sign and the positive sign, those are going to cross each other out, and a positive sign next to a positive sign is going to give me a positive sign. So when the two signs are the same, I'm going to be left with a positive. And 4 plus 7 is going to give me 11. And finally, the last example I've got there is where I've got a negative next to a negative. So for example, if I had 7 minus negative 2, right, what would I go do? I would go draw my circle around my two signs. Okay, now what's happened? I've got a negative next to a negative. What happens when the two signs are the same? What happened when I had a positive sign and a positive sign next to each other? The two signs were the same. I was left with a positive. Now I've got a negative sign and a negative sign next to each other. The two signs are the same. I'm going to be left again with a positive. So when I have two signs that are the same, negative sign and a negative sign next to each other, it's still going to be a positive again. So 7 plus 2 is going to give me 9. All right, what I would suggest is maybe take a screenshot of this so that you've got it saved on your phone, so that you can print it out. If you haven't written it out on a page, okay, for yourself or notes, at least you can take a screenshot and you'll have it saved, all right? So, because that's a very, very important note for you to have and to remember. All right. So, if you do have any questions at this point, you can ask in the chat. We're going to move on and we're going to practice this a little bit, and I will ask you for some questions once we start doing actual questions, actual problems. All right, guys. So now that you've had a chance to write this down, let's move down a little bit. Okay. Oh dear, my writing's having a little bit of an issue today, so let's just see if we can get it to work here quickly. Sorry, everybody. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm seeing a whole lot of brackets. I know that I'm going to have this whole positive signs next to each other and negative signs next to each other. So now I need to go and I need to grab my pencil because I'm going to be having to do some work here. Okay, I'm going to go grab my pencil, and my first sum I've got 3 plus positive 3. So I can see I've got two signs sitting right next to each other. I'm going to go draw my circle. Right. What did we tell ourselves? What happens when the signs are exactly the same? When we've got a positive sign and a positive sign, the signs are exactly the same. I'm going to cross them out, and I'm going to be left with a positive here. So 3 plus 3 is going to give me 6. All right, let's do another one. Again, I've got a positive and a positive right next to each other. So I'm going to draw my circle. What happens when I have a positive sign and a positive sign right next to each other? I'm going to cross them out, and I'm going to be left with 1 positive. So 3 plus 2 is going to give me 5. Okay. I've got a positive sign and a positive sign right next to each other. I'm going to let you do those two together, okay, by yourselves. So 3 plus positive 1 and 3 plus 0. Njalo, how can I help you? I see your hands being up. Njalo, have you got a question for me while everybody's doing that sum? Njalo, you are unmuted. Do you want to ask me your question? Otherwise, I'm going to move on. Okay. Bushle, do you want to ask me your question? You're unmuted.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How can I help?
I'm good. Ma'am, I don't understand on the board where we had to screenshot first.
Okay, what's up?
Ma'am, I heard you saying, how is negative the powerful one?
How is negative the powerful one? It just
Yes,
is
ma'am.
the more powerful sign. It's always going to be the more powerful sign. So when you have a negative sign and a positive sign together, the negative sign and the positive sign, it's always going to leave you with a negative sign. So when we practice some more, you're going to see how it's going to work. I promise. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. All right, let's practice and let's have a look. All right, so we're going to go through these and then I'll answer some more questions. So let's have a look. Right, I would draw my circle around these ones, cross them out. I've got a positive. 3 plus 1 gives me 4. Draw my circle around these, cross them out. I've got a positive. 3 plus 0 gives me 3. Okay. Now I'm coming to something that's slightly different, hey? Okay, so again, my screen's just doing some strange things today. Apologies, everybody. We will get it right eventually. All right, let's see if it'll let us work now. Nope. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Let's try see if it'll let us do something else here quick. Okay. All right, we are going to try and move on without this. Okay. So now I've got, okay, I know you can't see my screen yet. I'm going to share it with you again. So now what I'm looking at, okay, is I'm looking at my -3, okay? So I know you can't see my screen. I'm going to share it again with you now. All right. Now I'm looking at my my positive sign sitting right next to my negative signs, okay? So I'm looking at my positive signs and they're sitting right next to my negative signs, all right? So what did we say earlier on? We said that which sign is more positive? Who can tell, or which sign is more powerful? Who can tell me in the chat? Which sign is more powerful, everybody? Who can tell me in the chat? Which one's more powerful? It's going to be the negative sign. Good. The negative sign is always more powerful. Hey? Okay, so let's go and share my screen with you again. All right. Okay. So, right. Apologies, everybody. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Okay, so my negative sign is always more powerful. So for my next sum that we were busy doing, the next one that we were on, if I'm having a look at 3 plus -1, okay, 3 plus -1, I'm going to go and draw my circle around those. Okay, if I've got a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other, what do I know is going to happen when I've got a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other? Well, I'm going to cross those out and it's going to become a negative. So 3 minus 1 is going to give me 2. All right, I've got a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other. So what do I need to do? I need to draw a circle around those. Okay, a positive and a negative sign right next to each other. I cross them out and it becomes a negative. So 3 minus 2 is going to give me 1. I've got a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other. I'm going to put a circle around them. I'm going to cross them out and it's going to become a negative. So 3 minus 3 will give me 0. Right, I wanted you to try the next 3 while I answer some questions because I see some hands up. So, Tara Jane, how can I help?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask for the third one you did with the answer number 2. Why did it become a negative?
Okay, let's have a look at that third one that I did get. Tara Jane. My screen will not be cooperating with me today, of course. So it was 3 plus -1. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
That third one that I did. And of course, it won't let me write over it because that's the one you want us to look at, hey? Always, hey? Okay, let's rewrite some at the bottom of our screen. That'll help us. Nope. It's really giving us issues today, the screen, guys. Okay, so let's rewrite some here on the side. So I had 3 plus -1, okay? So Tara Jane, you tell me, when I have a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other, what's the first thing I must do?
Circle the positive and negative.
Good. Circle the positive and the negatives. Good. Okay, now I've circled the positives and the negatives. What happens when there's a positive and a negative sign? What happens? What must the signs become when there's a positive and a negative sign? What sign's more powerful?
The negative.
The negative. Good. So the negative. So I'm going to cross those out and I'm going to have 3 minus 1. And what's 3 minus 1?
3 minus 1 is 2.
Is 2. Does it make sense now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. You're welcome. All right, I'm going to answer another question and then we're going to carry on. Dimple, you are unmuted. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. When we plus when you see the negative and the positive side, right? And if, for example, if the positive side, if the negative is more powerful, do we have to minus the number and then we get our answer?
Okay, say it once more for me, Dimple.
Huh?
Ask your question for me once more, just so I can understand.
I'm saying when we find our integers, do we plus or minus?
Okay, so Dimple, what you must do is when you see two numbers next to each other. Okay, so let's do the next one together quickly. Are you ready? Let's do this next one. So you're on the line with me, hey? So I've got 3 plus -4 equals. Okay, do you see that I've got a positive sign and a negative sign and they're next to each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what happens when I've got two signs and they're next to each other? What must I do?
You must draw the circle to check if is
Good. I must draw the circle. Good. All right, Dimple, which sign's more powerful, the positive sign or the negative sign?
the negative side.
Good. So do you agree? I'm going to cross these out and I'm going to draw
Yes,
a
ma'am. Negative.
negative, hey? All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and now I'm going to say 3 minus 4. What's 3 minus 4?
-1.
Good. Nice. -1. Does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Good girl. Nice. Well done. Okay, we are going to carry on. We're going to move down here. So I had 3 plus -5. All right, I will answer some more questions just now, I promise, but for now we're going to move on. If you do have some more questions, you can ask Hugo. He will answer them for you in the chat as best he can. So 3 plus -5, I draw my circle around them. I see the negative is more powerful, and I get -2. All right, so that takes me, guys, to the end of my page at the moment. As much as it'll let me, aha, it's letting us take it all away. There we go. Thank goodness. Okay, there we go. Now we can move down the page. All right. So my last two sums, or my last one there, I've got 3 plus -6 and 3 plus -6. What do? I draw my circle. I see that I have a negative. 3 minus 6 is going to give me -3. If you're still not sure how to do those sums, how to get -3, what do we need to do? We need to use the number line to get those sums. Okay, I'll do one here for you for this last one on how to get them. I would draw a number line. All right. Here's my 0. Here's 1. Here's 2. Here's 3. Here's -1. Here's -2. Here's -3. Here I am. I'm sitting at the number 3. Okay. And I want to subtract 6. When I subtract, do I move to the right or do I move to the left? You tell me in the chat which way. When you're subtracting, move to the right or move to the left? Which way do I move, guys? To the left. Good. So I want to subtract 6. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what's my answer? I get -3. So you must use a number line to help you. All right, let's have a look at our next column. So we're moving to column B. Okay, in column B now, column B's questions are slightly different. Now in column B, I have -3 plus +3. Now, be careful here. Make sure that you're paying attention, everybody, okay? Make sure that you're watching on your screen. So again, I'm only worried about the two signs that are right next to each other. So the two signs that I'm worried about putting in my brackets or my circle are the two that are next to each other. So there's the two signs that are next to each other. I'm not worried about the sign that's right on the outside. That sign's not going to bug me. I'm worried about the signs that are right next to each other. Okay, so be careful here. Don't let them trick you. All right, so I've got -3. Inside my circle, I've got a plus and a plus next to each other. What happens when I have two of the same signs and they're right next to each other? I cross them out and I'm going to be left with a positive. So I cross them out and I'm left with a positive. So -3 plus 3. -3 plus 3, when I go and I put that on my number line, I'm going to get the answer of 0. All right. My next one, again, I've got a positive and a positive right next to each other. When I see a positive and a positive right next to each other, what's going to happen? They're going to cancel each other out and be left with a positive. -3 plus 2 is going to give me -1. All right. I want you to try do those 3 by yourself. I'm just going to get my lights to go back on so that you can see me nicely. You do those 3 by yourself, and I'm going to come back and answer some questions. Okay. Let's have a look. All right. Mr. Bradley, do you want to unmute yourself and ask me your question?
Ma'am,
Yes, Bradley, how can I help?
I don't understand the first two.
You don't understand the first 2. Okay, Bradley, let's
I
do
don't
the
really
next one
understand
together.
how you made. Yes.
Bradley, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, Bradley, let's do the next one together. I'm just going to put you on mute, okay? All right. So Bradley's saying he's not sure how I did the first 2. Okay, so let's do the next one together, and then I'm going to answer another question. So I see -3 plus +1. I see 2 signs, and they're right next to each other, guys. So when I see 2 signs right next to each other, I go and I put them in a circle. I see 2 positives next to each other. When I see 2 positives next to each other, what happens? 2 of the same sign next to each other are going to become 1 positive sign. So -3 plus 1. How am I going to get that answer? I'm going to go and draw myself a number line. Okay? So draw myself a number line, and I'm going to say -3 plus 1 is going to leave me with -2. Okay, if you're not sure how you get from -1 to -2, go and have a look at our lesson from Monday. Go and have a look at our lesson from last week. You can go and have a look at the video and go through it and just double check. Okay, all right. Shay, how can I help you?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, so what would be the answer if you have 2 negatives and 1 positive?
Okay, so Shay, we're going to get to that one. It's coming in these next questions, I promise. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at the last one you had to do by yourself. I've got -3 plus 0. I draw my circle around them. I know they're going to cancel out. So -3 plus 0 is going to give me -3. All right. Moving to my next ones now. So the last one you had to do by yourself, I put these 2 in a circle. I see now I've got a positive and a negative next to each other. When I have a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other, what happens? What happens when I have a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other? I cross them out because they're going to become negative. So -3 minus 1, -3 minus 1 is going to give me -4. -3 minus 1 will give me -4. Okay, right. Those were the ones that you had to do by yourself. Let's have a look at this next one now. Okay, for these next ones, I really would suggest that you get yourself a number line out and you practice using the number line until you're used to doing them by yourselves. So I really suggest you practice using a number line. I'm going to draw myself a number line at the bottom here. Okay, I'm going to draw myself a number line at the bottom so that I can have one to practice. So here is my number line that I'm going to draw. Right. It's not very neat. You guys are going to use a ruler, of course. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll give you a few minutes to give yourself a number line so we can practice. -3, -4, -5. Okay. So here is my number line. Really, really good to always have a number line when you're doing this kind of math, especially with integers. Okay, especially with integers. So for this first sum, okay, my first sum says to me, I'm sitting at -3. So here I am sitting at -3. Okay, here I am sitting at -3 plus something will get me equals -5. So -3 plus something will get me to -5. -3 plus something will get me to -5. So here I am at -3. If I'm at -3, first of all, which way am I going to move? Tell me in the chat. Which way am I moving in the chat? Am I moving left or am I moving right, guys? Am I moving left or right to get from -3 to -5? Good. I'm moving left. So to get from -3 to -5, I'm definitely moving left. Good. And when I'm moving left, everybody, am I adding or am I subtracting? When I'm moving left, I am most definitely subtracting. Okay? I'm most definitely subtracting. So in my answer here, what's going to happen? I'm saying -3, and they're saying plus, but what's happening? I'm going to say -2. So to get from -3 to -5, what did I do? I subtracted. I had -2 will get me to -5. Can we go check our answer? Let's go check our answer. If we have to go draw the circle, let's go draw the circle. What happens when we've got a positive and a negative next to each other, everybody? When we've got a positive and a negative next to each other, what happens? It becomes a negative. So -3 minus 2 gives me -5. I'm seeing that we can use an inverse operation there in the chat. Fantastic, such fancy words, but absolutely well done. Well done. Right. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to let you try by yourself. Sorry, let's do one more with you. All right. Whoopsie daisy. Oh. Nope, doesn't want to let me get rid of that little red mark. So let's use the small eraser for you. Okay, let's do one more together. All right, so here's my number line again. Okay, this time, oh, I need a -6. So let's go draw a -6 on there for ourselves. Okay, we need to make my number line a little bit bigger. -6. Okay, so where am I starting? I'm starting at -3. Okay, and where am I ending up? I'm ending up at -6. So I'm starting at -3. Okay, and I'm ending up at -6. All right. I want you to really pay attention. If you didn't understand the last one, that's okay. It's brand new stuff. It's okay that you didn't understand the last one. I want you to really pay attention to this one now so that you can try understand it again. Okay, it's all right if you didn't understand the last one. Try and pay attention now. Make sure you're watching. Make sure you're listening to try understand this one. All right. So we're starting at -3 and we want to end up at -6. Which way are we moving? Tell me again. Which way are we moving? Are we moving right or are we moving left? Which way are we going? We're going left. Good. Well done. So 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. So it says -3 plus, and then it's got brackets, is equal to -6. You tell me, when I'm moving left, what am I doing? Am I adding or am I subtracting, guys? Am I adding or am I subtracting? I'm subtracting. Good. So if I say -3 plus, what am I going to say in my bracket? You told me I'm subtracting, so I'm going to say -3. So -3 plus -3 will give me -6. Could we go back and could we check it? Could we make sure? Could we draw a little circle around here? Okay, we could do that. We could see we've got a positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other. Positive sign and a negative sign right next to each other means that what's going to happen, it's going to become a negative. -3 minus 3 is going to give me -6. Right. I want you to try those next two together by yourself. While you're trying those next two together by yourself, I'm going to answer some questions. People have their hands up. I'm actually going to ask you to try those next three together by yourself while I answer those questions. Okay, let's have a look. All right, Unati, I haven't seen you writing anything, but I'm going to try answer your question. Let's see. Unati, how can I help?
Hello, ma'am. When it's positive plus example, when it's positive and positive, what will it be? Will it be negative?
No, Unati, when you've got a positive sign next to a positive sign, what's going to happen? The sign's going to stay positive.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. So when it's a positive sign and a positive sign, the sign will stay positive. When it's a negative sign and a negative sign, the sign will become positive.
Positive.
So when the signs are exactly the same, the two of the same sign, the sign will become positive. When the signs are different, so when it's a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other, then the signs will be negative.
Negative.
Okay. Did you take a screenshot of the beginning of the lesson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, learn that, remember that, draw it and put it on your desk so you can remember that one, okay? Okay, cool, good, Anati, nice question. All right, Bushle, how can I help you?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi,
How are you?
fine and you?
I'm fine. Ma'am, I don't understand when you did the number line, ma'am. At school, when they say a negative, ma'am, we always start at the 0.
You always start at the 0 when you have a negative number.
Yes, ma'am. Or even if it's a
Right.
positive.
Or even if it's a positive, you always start at the 0. What do you mean you always start at the 0?
Ma'am, before adding anything, when we add, ma'am, we always start with a 0 to the number.
You always start with a 0 to the number. Okay, do you want to
Ma'am,
give
can
me
you
an
make-
example?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what's an example?
For instance, ma'am, when it's -4 or maybe plus +3, we always gonna start by the 0 and going to the bigger number, which is positive. So from positive, we're gonna stop from where we parked and go back the negative, which makes the answer -1.
Okay, so -4 plus 3, you say. Okay,
Yes.
listen, if that works and you understand it, Bushra, that's fine. Perfect. I'm happy for you to do it that way. Because if that works and you understand it and your teachers taught it to you that way, that's cool. I'm happy that's a good way to do it. I like that way. So I'm
Yes,
really
ma'am.
happy for you to do it that way. That's cool. Do it that way. It's good.
Thank you, ma'am.
No problem. Cool. All right. I'm seeing other people. Mia also says that their teacher also taught them the same way. I like that way as well, Mia. That's also cool. I'm happy for you to do it that way. That's also cool. All right. Ndalo, what's your question?
Ma'am, can you please go back to the top?
Can I go back to the top, like right at the top where we had the rules?
Like -3 plus 0.
3 plus 0. -3 plus 0. That one.
Yes, ma'am. How did you get your answer?
Okay. Let's have a look. All right, I'm going to put it on a number line, okay? Are you ready? All right. Or let's just do this, Ndalo. What is 1 plus 0?
Ma'am?
What's 1 plus 0?
1, ma'am.
What's 2 plus 0?
Ma'am?
What's 2 plus
pardon?
0? What's 2 plus 0?
2.
2. What's 1,000 plus 0?
7.
Yeah, okay. So then what will negative 3 be plus 0? Negative 3, hey? Any number. Exactly. Any number plus 0 is going to give you the number, hey? Because if you add, oh, you disappeared on my screen. If you add 0 to any number, it'll give you the number itself, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Does it make sense now?
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. No problem. Okay, I'm seeing lots of hands up, guys. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get to all the questions. So try and ask some of your questions to Hugo in the chat. If he doesn't get to all of them, what we will be doing is we will be keeping the chat as well. And I will go over those questions in the next lesson too. So make sure that you're asking those questions in the chat as well. Okay, I will try and get to them all a little bit later. All right, let's finish up here. So let's see if you got some of my answers. All right, so I've got, for my next sum, I'm hoping that you guys got negative 3 plus negative 4 gives you negative 7. I'm hoping for the next one, you got an answer of negative 8. And for the last one, I'm really hoping that you managed to get negative 103. Negative 103. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some extra sums up for you, okay, so that you can screenshot them and you can practice them in your own time. I'm not sure if you'll be able to write them down quickly, but I'm going to put them up for you so that you can screenshot them and practice them in your own time, okay? There are some slightly harder ones there for you, okay, but they're good practice. There's some good practice there, all right? So make sure you take a screenshot or you write some of them down so that you can practice them in your own time. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to answer 1 or 2 more questions while you're writing them down or screenshotting them. Okay, let's have a look at who else has a question here. So I've got Kimofilwe. You are unmuted. What's your question? Kimofilwe? Okay, Kimofilwe, you are unmuted, but I'm going to move on to somebody else. I've got Mtunzim.
Oh, hi, ma'am.
Hi, how can I help?
Ma'am, can I ask that, like, how did you get my question number? Wait, can I see? Yes, I can't see it properly.
Okay, which one was it? Okay, I think maybe we've lost you. Maybe you can ask a question a bit later. All right, I'm going to move to Owetu. Owetu, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, what's your question, Owetu?
I just wanted to know, how did you get negative 8?
How did I get negative 8? So Owetu, I'm going to go and I'm going to draw a number line. So here's my number line, Owetu. Okay, I'm going to start here 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative, and I can carry on going, okay? Right, I'm starting here at negative 3, so here's negative 3, and I need to minus 5. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where do I end up?
Negative 8.
Negative 8. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. Okay, right. I am about to put your brain break for today up. So I hope that you managed to get some of these questions down so you can go and practice those. I am about to put your brain break for today up. Mr. Hugo is going to put the link to today's quiz up for you at the same time. Okay, so we're going to have another brain break for today. Mr. Hugo is going to put the link to today's quiz up for you guys. Okay, and while he does that, I will answer some more of your questions. Once you have the link for the quiz and you are happy to go and do the quiz, you do not have to stay for the rest of the class. You can log out. All right, have a look at the brain break on the screen though. I'm going to answer 2 questions and then I'm going to do the brain break, and then you are more than welcome to leave. So Owetu, you still have your hand up. I'm going to answer somebody else's question and then I will come back to you. So I'm going to start with, let's see, who do we have here? Mafuro, it should have asked you to unmute on your screen. How can I help you?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, how can I help?
Like I'm not understanding anything at all. Like
Oh, yeah.
seriously,
Oh,
I
no.
need, because I do understand, but I'm asking you if you can help me where it said 3 plus 0 on the top.
Okay, so 3 plus 0, like this.
Yeah, it
Like
had
that.
like not like that, not like that. Like like it was on the top.
Okay, so let's just do this quickly, okay? Were you in our lesson on Monday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you were there on Monday. All right, so I'm going to
Yeah.
just go back quickly to the lesson quick. All right, let's have a look. The one that said 3 plus 0. Was it this one over here where I went through earlier on?
Yes.
That one. Okay, so I did go through this one just now. Somebody did ask me the question just now, but I'll go through it again with you quickly. So it says -3 plus 0, like that,
Yes.
equals. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this. Okay, what's 1 plus 0?
1 plus 0 is 1.
1. What's 100 plus 0?
100 plus 0 is 100.
So you tell me, what's any number plus 0?
It's that number, it's
It's
itself.
that number. Good. So if I have a negative number, so if I say to you -3 plus 0, what's the answer going to be?
-3 plus
Negative.
0. 3.
What's it going to
Isn't it
be? It's going to be
3?
It's going to be -3.
3.
Good. It's
Oh,
not going to lose its sign. It's still going to stay -3 because all you're doing is saying plus 0. Are you changing the number at all?
no.
No ways. Okay, you're just saying plus 0.
Okay, sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
You do understand. I promise you understand. Don't tell yourself you don't understand, okay? If you're not
Yes.
sure, now tell yourself you're not sure, okay? If you're not sure, are there some videos you can go watch?
Yeah, I will
Yeah,
watch them.
do you know where to find them?
Yeah,
Good, I'm glad. Okay, go watch the videos, go do the test, and go see that you actually do understand. I promise you understand, okay?
sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, have a really good week. Okay, bye. All right, guys, I'm going to answer this brain break, and then I'm going to ask you some more questions. So let's have a look. All right, so I'm going to add the numbers across and each row and column and diagonally to show the values that are shown. So first of all, the easiest one to do is to get to 33. So I've got 33, I've got the numbers 1, 13, and 5. So 33 minus, I'm going to start with 13, gives me 20. 20 minus 5 is 15. And 15 minus 1, that's going to give me 14. So that's how I'm going to get my first number, because that was the first one that was missing. All right, now I'm going to go across. So I've got 40, I've got 14, 7, and 4. So I could add them across first. So I could say 14 plus 4 gives me 18, and 18 plus 7 gives me 25. 40 minus 25 gives me 15. Okay, the next one that I'm missing, I see I'm only missing one number from here. So if I go and add these, I've got 13 plus 10 gives me 23, And 23 plus 12 gives me 35. 38 minus 35 leaves me with 3. Right. Okay. Now I've got a bit of a problem because now I'm missing a whole lot of numbers. Oh, wait. Here's one here where I'm only missing one number. So I've got 7, 6, 10, and that needs to get me to 34. So 7 plus 6 is 13. 13 plus 10 is 23. And 34 minus 23 is going to give me 11. Right. So where else did they tell me that I could add numbers? I could also add numbers diagonally. What does diagonally mean, everybody? This is really good maths because also teaching us all our ways across. So diagonally means if I add them across this way. All right. So if I look this way, 14 plus 6 gives me 20, and 20 plus 3 gives me 23. 32 minus 23 is going to give me 9. Okay, what's left to do? I'm going to add down now. So 4 plus 12 gives me 16, and 16 plus 9 gives me 25. 33 minus 25 is going to leave me with 8. I'm going to leave you with those last two to try by yourself so you can screenshot them and get those last two. For those of you who are staying for the quiz is already there. All right, the quiz is already there for you inside the chat. All right, the quiz is already there for you inside the chat. Mr. Hugo, if you can post the quiz again for those people who didn't see it. Okay, and I'm going to take a few more questions. I'm going to start with the Mr. Man who's got his prime in his video. So, Amosta, what's your question?
Ma'am, I wasn't here yesterday.
Oh dear.
And,
On Monday.
Yeah, so I just want to know if you can like recap.
So, a really good idea if you weren't here on Monday is just to go back and watch the video for Monday. All right, because it was a full hour of the lesson. Okay, so where you can find the video, you can have a look on YouTube. So you look up Watobe on YouTube, or if you go back on the chat, you'll be able to find the link to the video there, or you can go to Watobe's website and the video will be there. Okay, and have a look on Monday's lesson. All right, and then go back, watch it was a very good lesson, so go watch it, okay?
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Have a really good day.
You too.
All right, Tandeka, how can I help? You are unmuted. Oh, wait, you're not unmuted. There we go. There we go.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, how can I help?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask, how did you get to 103?
How did I get to 103? Let's go have a look. Okay, so I had -3 and I had -100. So if you can start seeing a pattern, Tandeka, can you start seeing a pattern when we've got these negative numbers here?
Yes.
So -3 plus -4 equals -7. Can you see a pattern? That one's negative, that one's negative. So my answer was negative. And 3 and 4, what's 3 plus 4?
3 plus 4 is 7.
Ah,
No,
negative.
wait.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yes.
You're right. I've got a negative plus a negative. So negative and a negative. Can you see the two numbers are both negative there? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So my answer is negative. I've got 3 and 5. What's 3 plus 5?
3 plus 5 is 10.
3 plus 5 is 8.
8. Oh, ma'am, I made a
Yeah.
mistake.
That's okay. Don't worry. It's been a long day. It's a very late night. It's a long day. Okay. So can you see? So I've got -8. All right. Now my last one. I've got negative and a negative. Can you see? They're both negative.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So my answer is going to be negative. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I've got 3 and 100. So what's 3 plus 100?
3 plus 100 is 103.
There we go. And that's how I got -103. It's
Thank
like a
you,
cheat.
ma'am.
You're welcome. That's a cheat that I taught you today. Hey?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a good evening, my love. Get some rest. All right. You are unmuted, Dita.
Ma'am,
Yes.
can for the integers, can we use inverse operation?
Of course you can use inverse operation. Of course. If you understand inverse operation, yes, you can use it. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Right. Nomfundo? Nomfundo, you are unmuted. Nomfundo, do you have a question for me? You are unmuted. Okay. Nomfundo, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, how can I help?
So, ma'am, there by -3 plus -100, is it fine if I say 100 plus 3, which is -100, 103?
Negative 103, yes. As long as you
Thank
get
you,
the
ma'am.
same answer as me, it's perfect. Thank you. Right, who else have I still got here? I've got, guys, I'm not gonna get to all of your questions. So if I don't get to your question, please write it before I even say to you, it's not too late. Write your question in the chat so that I can answer it in the next lesson on Mondays. And then you can come back on Monday and see your answer, just in case I don't get to you. So make sure you've written your question inside the chat, okay? Make sure you've written it inside the chat. And don't write it directly to me. Make sure you've put it on the chat, okay? All right, so I'm going to answer Renil.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, what's your question?
Ma'am, if we ever got to a point where we have to divide in integers, like how are we going to divide them?
Okay, so that was going to be later on in our lesson today. Let's have a look at one. All right, so if you're dividing by integers, all right, you'll only do that next year in grade 8.
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
so you'll only do dividing integers next year in grade 8. The only one that you'll do this year, dividing integers, is positive. So 121 divided by 11. 121 divided by 11 will give you 11, hey? So that's the only kind of divide sums that you'll do this year in grade 7. All right. You can do timesing ones. So -5 times by 4. I've got a negative number timesing by a positive number. You tell me which is the more powerful sum if I've got a negative and a positive. Which one's more positive when I've got, which one's more powerful when I've got a negative and a positive next to each other?
The negative.
The negative, good. So I'll have negative. And what's 5 times by 4?
Ma'am?
What's 5 times 4? 5 times 4 gives me 20, hey?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the kind of answer that you might get this year.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
but come back next week and we'll have some more practice on those next week, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, no problem. All right, the next person on my list that I have here is Unati. All right, Unati, what is your question?
Ma'am, what if it's negative and negative, ma'am? Will it be positive?
That's right, good, because when I've got two signs that are the same and they're next to each other, then it becomes a positive. Good. Makes sense, Unati? You're welcome. Thank you. All right. My next person that I've got here on my screen is Lesego.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, what's your question?
Ma'am, how do you watch the recorded videos?
How do you watch this? Say it to me again.
The recorded videos.
The videos, the previous videos.
Yes, ma'am.
So you go onto Watobe's website. If you're a member, then you can enter your details in there and you can go and you can watch previous videos. Or you can go to YouTube as well. You search for Watobe on YouTube and you find Watobe's channel. Okay, Mr. Hugo did post it earlier on tonight inside our lesson. He posted the link to the videos, okay? But you can search for Watobe inside the channel, and you can go and find Watobe, and you can go and find the grade 7 lessons.